Misha here, and moving right along, we're getting to the long-range heavy hitters, the heavy ordnance troopers. So, not so much about the troopers themselves as their weapons. And we begin with the creatively named rocket launcher trooper. Yeah, standard trooper with a colored pauldron just to denote their specialty. They carried the Ep.XII Smart Guided Rocket Launcher, a powerful long-range and obviously guided weapon, homing, seeking on the targets. But the flip side of it was that it is a single shot and takes a while to reload and target up. So these guys were support troops, often congregating in the back of other stormtrooper squadrons and essentially providing cover fire and ground close support. Although, since it is a single shot weapon, I'm actually not sure where they kept their extra rounds. Kind of always made me wonder. I think it's also a little interesting that they don't seem to carry an E11 as a backup, but I guess that's the idea of them being part of a squadron. One would imagine this weapon was also capable of taking down low-flying vehicles and speeders as well. It is definitely a chunk. Although, since it's based on something like an RPG, we may assume that the tube isn't quite as heavy as it might at first look. But an interesting figure from the Black Series nonetheless, and one of the largest single accessories you probably have in the whole series. But our next guy definitely probably trumps him. Here we have the Mortar Stormtrooper, or just Mortar Trooper, also nicknamed Shell Troopers. And would you believe these guys launch mortars? I know, it's shocking, isn't it? And yet again, the trooper himself isn't all that different, except he does have a pauldron, which is yellow, to denote his specialty role. And that is to set up and utilize this here. The Model 201 Smart Mortar Launcher. Not made by Blastech for once. This is actually Mir Sun. And this is one of the more unique accessories we get in the Black Series. It has a fold-out bipod, but more interesting, it actually has a swivel base. So you really can elevate it and orient it for indirect fire. And it's even hollow, so if you want, you can drop in mortar rounds. And while the trooper is not all that unique, his accessories are. He has a backpack with actual storage for his E11. See, he was smart. He knew he needed a backup. And it holds multiple canisters for the mortar launcher. And I think the standard one is called the C25 high explosive or fragmentation version. Very similar to what we saw some shore troopers use. But where those would just be kind of tossed or used as a satchel charge, this would be actually launched a good bit of time and distance. And these canisters are removable from the backpack. So it's a multiple piece affair. And of course, since it is a mortar launcher, you could put lots of different things in it, indirect fire. And these guys would typically go behind cover and launch over the cover. And the smart scope in the mortar launcher and targeting systems would all interface with systems in the Stormtrooper helmet to give a little bit of futuristicness. Of course, just like with the Flame Troopers we recently visited, this is again very harkening back to World War II. But unlike flamethrowers, which aren't really used much on the modern battlefield, modernized versions of mortars are still very much used. So, pretty neat, and again, one of the most interesting accessories we get, with quite a bit of articulation for a piece. I really like it. It would be kind of cool if there was a way to strap this to his backpack for carrying, but I'm not even sure if we saw that in The Mandalorian when we encounter these guys, so I guess that's okay. But other than weapons storage for the mortar launcher, the M201 itself, almost a perfect little figure here for just a neat trooper. The only complaint I have is the backpack itself doesn't peg in all that tight, so I have thought about gluing it. Haven't done it yet, but what the hey. But with that, let's move yet further forward in time to this guy. The Heavy Assault Trooper, or Mega Blaster Trooper is the nickname, was really the replacement for the classic E-Web. And I still really wish we would get an E-Web gunner in the Black Series. It's strange we did not, but we have this guy from the First Order, but oh well. He is manning a FWMB-10 heavy repeating blaster. These could be on fold-out tripods or pintle mounted on vehicles, and really require an energy backpack for feeding, and then the gunner would carry extra gas cartridges on his belt and has that kind of front bandolier. The gun itself was long range, rapid, sustained fire, had a cooling shroud around the barrel, of course automated sighting to go with the helmet. It had steadying grips and all that. And for just a defensive weapon, he has an SE-44C blaster pistol on his hip. It's one thing I will say about the First Order figures. I like that they have weapons storage. That's pretty great. This guy actually came in a kit. I think it was a Comic-Con exclusive or something years ago, where you got a standard First Order trooper, but he came with just scads and scads of gear. And it would have been really neat if we had a Stormtrooper version, or even a clone version with some interesting stuff. But this was the heavy gunner. He could be either offense or defense accordingly, giving cover fire or suppression fire depending on the role, and really does fit kind of right in with the rocket and mortar troopers. Is a heavy blaster guy. But we have one more. Someone should tell this guy that I'm recording this on Halloween, and yet he seems dressed for more Christmas. No, the heavy gunner, heavy assault troop of the Sith Eternal, the Sith Trooper. It's the same guy, but he has a slightly updated version and slightly lightened version for hand carry, two-handed, known as the FWMB-10B. Essentially, it has the same accoutrement, but doesn't require the backpack, although that does limit its fire somewhat. But just like how the Sith Trooper himself was designed for greater flexibility, mobility, this kind of goes alongside it. He carries his standard STGW 48 blaster on his hip, although, I'm sure different ones could be carried depending on the exact role. By the way, I should mention that these M10s here, either one, are actually made by Sunblas, the conglomeration of Sunmare and Blastech. Pretty standard. And I think it's pretty cool. It's a pretty uncommon accessory. We only get it a few times in the Black Series. And it's kind of a shame. It's neat when they do heavy weaponry like this. As I mentioned in the other video with the Sith Trooper, this too came in a kind of Comic-Con or whatever special collector set where you get a standard Sith Trooper, but then he came with like 5-6 different weapons, some of them unique to just that trooper. I like accessories. What can I say? Accessories are cool. If you want me to buy a deluxe figure, give him lots of neat accessories. Obviously, me and Paint don't exactly have the best relationship. Hey, it's not my fault. But, yeah, the heavy gunner of the Sith Eternal. Essentially the elite forces and successors to the venerable Death Troopers. Is venerable the right word? I'm not sure. Oh, well. But he fits right in with these other guys. Apparently he's been eating his Wheaties too if he's able to lug this thing around. If you're doing a display, figures like these with big accessories are always fun. And we need more of them in the Black Series. We really do. So that's why I wanted to make sure I did a video. And I think at least some of these I've never had in a video before. I'm sure others online have, but I don't know if I ever got around to doing the Rocket Trooper, for example. I don't know. By the way, Peanut is now awake. Aren't you, Peanut? It got cold last night, and she has decided she is a desert creature and likes warmer weather, don't you? She's also using the cold as an excuse to try to con me out of more of her favorite food. No comment on if she is or is not successful. So there we go, guys. Where to go from here? Yeah, we'll find out. But I appreciate you tuning in, hanging out as I kind of chew through these. I'm having a lot of fun, so I hope you are too. And which blaster or mortar or rocket guy do you like the best? I think overall the mortar trooper is probably my favorite. The rocket guy, I really like his accessory, but I think he needs more. He needs extra rounds. He needs like a carrier on his hip or something, kind of like you saw Scorch use. And again, if this were a regular Stormtrooper with an E-Web, that'd be my favorite. I mean, even as it is with this First Order version, it's still pretty cool, frankly. But that would put it way over the top. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? And on behalf of Peanut, we'll both catch you very soon next time.